Welcome to Rise Up Voices from the Frontlines, your window into relationship, identity, safety, emotional awareness, regulation and intelligence, unleashed potential, passion and purpose.
Welcome back to Rise Up Voices from the Frontlines, the podcast where real healing meets real life. And I'm your host, Krista Fee, trauma practitioner, advocate, and slightly sassy truth teller, especially when it comes to the messy middle of healing work. Today's episode may feel a little edgy, maybe a little uncomfortable, and definitely necessary because we're talking about toxic positivity. When the language of healing becomes a mask, when smiling becomes survival, and when light gets used to silence what still hurts. So let's talk about it. When the light becomes a lie. Let's be honest, the beginning of the healing journey often looks like a montage. Journals full of affirmations, salt baths, moon water, and 10 different highlighters for your planner. And there's nothing wrong with this. It's a phase most of us need, one that feels empowering, especially when we've spent so long in the dark. After trauma, our bodies are starving for relief, and when you find anything that feels remotely safe or in your control, it feels like oxygen. But here's where it can turn. When the tools start to become rules, when joy becomes a requirement, when feeling your feelings starts to feel like failure. Toxic positivity is that moment where the light starts to lie. But your nervous system doesn't lie. Let's bring in some neuroscience. According to polyvagal theory, your nervous system is constantly scanning for safety. It picks up on things like tone, tension, pacing, micro expressions. You can say I'm good all day long, but if your jaw is clenched, your shoulders are in your ears, and your gut feels like a cement mixer, your nervous system is already sounding the alarm. This creates neuroception dissonance, where your body and your words don't match, and your brain, especially your limbic system, doesn't feel safe when there's incongruence. So instead of calming down, your nervous system gets even more activated. That internal disconnect can actually deepen your anxiety, trigger chronic stress symptoms, and leave you wondering, why doesn't any of this positive thinking work for me? Spoiler alert. It's not because you're broken, it's because your body is honest. Let's talk about Jordan, glitter-tinged grief. Jordan had the Instagram aesthetic. Her life looked like a vision board, yoga at sunrise, mason jars full of matcha, hashtag blessed captions. But when her sister died suddenly, Jordan didn't stop. She curated her grief like a Pinterest board. She showed up at the funeral with a glitter tissue box and said she's in a better place. But 3 months later, her body hit the brakes. Insomnia, panic attacks, gut issues. Her therapist looked her in the eye and said, "You haven't grieved. You've planned grief. You've performed peace, but you haven't felt anything." What looked like strength was actually shut down. Her joy wasn't fake, but it was incomplete. And that brings me to you. How do you know you're caught in the toxic positivity trap? Let's just get reflective. Here are some signs that you might be caught in toxic positivity's grip. You feel guilty for crying or expressing anger. You use affirmations to override discomfort rather than processing it. You meet other people's vulnerability with solutions instead of presence. You avoid people who are too negative, even if they're just being real. You say, "I should be grateful," even when you're clearly drowning. These are not failures. These are trauma responses masquerading as empowerment. Now, I want to be clear. Positivity is not the enemy, but bypassing is. Because when you constantly avoid grief, rage, fear, or fatigue, you're not actually choosing peace. You're choosing performance. Spiritual bypassing is a different flavor of the same dish. It's the cousin to toxic positivity. It says things like, your energy attracts your experiences. If you feel anger, you're operating in a low vibration. Forgive and let go, or you'll manifest more pain. This kind of language isn't inherently harmful, but without context, it can shame people into silence. It says if you're hurting, it must be your fault. What that creates is spiritual perfectionism. You're not allowed to be messy, only mystical. You're not allowed to be human, only healed. And that, my friends, is just another cage. So what does healthy positivity sound like? Let's talk about what it sounds like to live with emotional integrity. I'm grateful and I'm struggling. This hurts like hell, and I believe it won't last forever. I feel joy and I feel loss. Notice the word and. That's a power move. Not denying the dark, but not living in it either. Just telling the truth. Because in trauma recovery, truth is regulation and truth is trust. When you give your body and your relationships permission to be where they are, the pressure to perform disappears, and that's when real healing starts. So here's some questions to ask yourself today. Where am I avoiding discomfort in the name of being strong? What do I say to myself when I'm feeling something inconvenient? Who in my life do I silence with cheer up energy? When was the last time I let myself be witnessed in something raw? These are not meant to shame you. They're here to wake up the part of you that knows your emotions are not the problem. Your expectations of permanent peace, however, might be. So here's a few final thoughts. You do not have to earn your healing by being positive all the time. You do not need to filter your grief through gratitude to be loved. And you damn sure don't need to silence your truth to make other people come. You get to be real here. You get to fall apart. You get to say this sucks without following it up with silver lining, because the gold is in the honesty, and that honesty is what allows your nervous system to finally exhale. So take off the mask, the one that smiles when you're broken, the one that turns every feeling into a quote. The light isn't gone. It's just waiting for you to stop pretending. If this episode resonates, I invite you to share it with someone stuck in the good vibes only loop. And if you're ready to do this kind of healing inside a trauma-informed, emotionally honest community, check out Rise Up Phoenix Trauma and Crisis Institute and find the perfect group for you. You are not too much. You are not too broken. You are not doing it wrong. You are human, and that is all you need to be right now. Until next time, keep rising. This is Krista Fee and Rise Up Voices from the Frontlines, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow for another episode.
Become a Rise Up Hero sponsor to provide mental wellness and crisis response resources for those who serve country and community. Join us in the Rise Up movement today.